It's the #1 movie in the world. Rebel Moon, Zack Snyder conquering the mountain, the top dog, the big kahuna, reigning supreme on Netflix. Wait a minute. Or is it? We'll explain why that might not be true despite what all the headlines online say. We'll explain how this is part of a major problem with entertainment and streaming. Why you really should care about this, folks. We'll explain it all right now. Yes, folks, we told you that it might be the end of Zack Snyder, the Snyderverse, any kind of Snyderverse there might ever be in any franchise ever out there in Hollywood. And now, I guess the egg is on us. Maybe we're eating crow today here on the WDW channel because, well, it's the #1 show on Netflix, the #1 movie. It's the top dog. Snyder's out there crowing about it. Netflix is happy? Allegedly. But some of us, we have our doubts, and all of this is throwing us back into the realization that there's not much good you can come out of this when streaming is giving you these numbers that seem dubious at best. Joining us to talk about why this actually matters a whole lot, and folks, we think after you watch this video, you'll agree with us, it really matters. Spencer of Bounding Into Comics, editor-in-chief over there, and Lou Wasserman's Ghost. Gentlemen, welcome back to the channel.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Always fun to be here. Always a pleasure. Always excited to get to talk to you, Mr. Pro, and my good friend Lou.
That's right. And folks, we're going to get into a big topic here, so hang tight, strap in, and we'll take you on the journey together. Here we go. We start at comingsoon.net, and this is what it says. Zack Snyder celebrates Rebel Moon being the #1 movie in the world. And let's all just soak in that headline, okay? Because this is not just coming from comingsoon.net. This is all over the web. Zack Snyder celebrates Rebel Moon being the #1 movie in the world. Now, let's find out what that means exactly. Despite receiving negative reviews from critics and audiences, and we're going to get to that in a moment, Zack Snyder's newest action sci-fi film, Rebel Moon Part 1, A Child of Fire, is still a massive hit for Netflix. And we'll get into what does that mean, becoming one of the streamer's most viewed titles with 23.9 million views. 1 week after its streaming debut, Snyder took to social media to celebrate A Child of Fire's Netflix success by calling it the #1 movie in the world. Now, just to give you all an idea of what we're looking at here, 23.9 million views. If every single one of those views were translated into the price of a movie ticket, we would be talking about an opening for this film at something like $350 million plus box office revenue. Exactly. But here's the thing. Nobody paid any money for this other than you had a Netflix subscription already and you checked into it.
Yeah.
The other thing about this is that when we see 23.9 million views, so let's just call it 24 to be easy.
Yeah.
We don't know, did people click on this and 15 minutes later they had enough and they walked away from it and said, I'll never watch something like that again. We have no idea what is going on here, but let's read the quote from Mr. Snyder. It's been a truly unparalleled experience introducing Rebel Moon to global audiences, and I'm thrilled that the movie is #1 around the world. We have the most dedicated and loyal fans across the world that any filmmaker could ask for, and seeing them consistently be supportive has been an enormously rewarding experience. We're thrilled that they are embracing the new world we've created in Part 1 and are excited for them to continue the journey next year with Part 2. Of course, that is coming out in April. So,
by the way, he said the most dedicated and loyal fans. You'd know that if they were buying tickets at a movie theater.
Right, but
you
don't know that.
Just being a member of Netflix doesn't make you loyal to him or anybody else.
Exactly. Spencer, walk us through. You cover all kinds of pop culture stuff with Bounding Into Comics. Do you find that are we completely off base? I mean, I said that this could end his career. Have I gone nuts? Is Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon the big phenomenon across the cultural zeitgeist that I just didn't recognize?
You know what, Pro? I'm going to have to be honest with you. It's not. See, what is happening, like, this is my takeaway from the entire Rebel Moon situation, which is it came out, it was a Snyder film, which is, sort of a niche audience of its own, his style, his direction. And whether or not the film is good, Netflix has already put in way too much money into Rebel Moon as a franchise. So we have animes and comics and podcasts and everything coming. They're gonna prop him up as strong as they can to make sure that everybody knows our investment in Snyder. This is going to work. This is going to pay off.
And it's going to pay off again in April because that's coming.
They can hope, but then that's the problem is that you have this giant gap in release dates. Yeah, you'll have people who will come back and watch it, but is with the reviews and the middling reception, is that going to draw a crowd back to go, yes, we are Rebel Mooners, we are here? Like, I don't think so.
I don't know of anybody, Spencer, who is there is nobody that I've seen online who's like, greatest movie ever. Like this, I don't get the sense that this is launching a new franchise that people are excited about.
I can't help it, but calling somebody a Rebel Mooner sounds like Han Solo flashing his butt at Darth Vader.
That's what he does. That's what he was doing. He pressed it against the Death Star or the Falcon window, and then he hit hyperspace.
Yeah, say it's only a Rebel.
That
moon.
is not a moon.
It's a ham.
That's right. Well, LW
for.
Ghost. You have some understanding of the way that ratings work, specifically in television and movies.
Yeah, what everybody has to understand is the ratings are not. There's a great line from Oscar Wilde from The Importance of Being Earnest. At the very beginning of the play, you see Algernon, this ultimate fop, playing the piano. And Lane, the ultimate British butler, comes in, and Algernon says, "Did you hear me playing, Lane?" And Lane says, "I didn't think it was polite to listen, sir." And Algernon replies, and this is the key line, he said, "I don't play accurately. Anyone can play accurately, but I play with such marvelous expression." Well, the ratings.
I'm sorry, I think Zack Snyder is right there with the expression.
Well, but the thing is, Nielsen, who was, interestingly enough, by the way, in this celebration of the 100 years of things, 1923 founded AC and Nielsen, so it's 100 years.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, they didn't
Are they
get it.
released a bunch of overpriced merch that looks really ugly and
Well, but the thing is, they achieved such huge dominance that everybody in the media business said, well, what's the Nielsen? What's the Nielsen? Whether it was right, wrong, or indifferent, whether they had their doubts or suspicions about the accuracy, you need a common benchmark in order to figure out what to charge advertisers. I was telling Pro before we began, I looked up, they started with radio, and before that even just products. But in 1950, they began their television rating service. And the way it worked was there was this little box called an odometer, not as in audio, but as in audience. And it kept track of when you had the TV on and when you did what you were watching. No really any further demographic data of note individually, as far as later they had buttons for is it junior, is it mom, is it whoever watching the show. But none of that. And people think, oh, it had a box, it used the internet. There was no internet. It went down your telephone line to call home and turn in the information. So the question that came to my mind is, how many people had telephones in 1950? What a shocker. Telephones
like
or radio. 4 out of 10 households in America even had a phone.
Jeez. And
yet, this data, which was based on 1,000 houses, which right away, compared to how many there were, is a pretty small sample. Yeah. And also, folks, just so that you get the vocabulary straight, when Nielsen calls something a rating, that means, say, a rating of 20. That means 20% of all households that have a television watched it. A share means that what percentage of people who were watching anything at that time watched your show. So that's the difference between a rating and a share for Nielsen. But the point is, Nielsen is around because nobody was able to compete with them because they got so many people to sign in so early saying, oh, at last, we have an excuse for how much we're going to charge the advertisers. And the advertisers said, oh, at last, we've got a reason for saying why we're spending all this money. There have been about 6 or 7 major companies that have tried and failed to compete with them, and nobody's ever come close.
I remember like 2 of them, yeah.
I'm saying since the 50s, but even then, Nielsen has been under fire for being inaccurate. People said they didn't measure things right during COVID. There were issues about sports. And with all of that, they were even decertified by this allegedly independent outfit that rates the raters. And they're still here, and they're still working. So it's interesting to know that the language we're using and the benchmarks we're using are about a game they all agree to play, not necessarily about what's really happening. Now, if I can monopolize the conversation much longer, which is shame on me, when we
Please.
talked about
I'm enthralled.
how many views and whether they're just turning off, the other thing that Pro and I were discussing earlier is this: when people tuned into an episode of Ahsoka or Loki or anything on Disney Plus that's a series and didn't like it and turned it off, and maybe tried the next one and really didn't like it, their reactions have been to shut off Disney Plus. And since membership revenue at Disney Plus is the only benchmark of whether they're succeeding or not, and they're not, big deal. But even if you were watching Netflix and decided to watch this, whether you were a Zack fan or not, I doubt you're going to quit Netflix over this.
That's a good point.
You're not.
Probably not.
In other words, and when you talk about what they're trying to prove that their investment in this property in all these other ways, they've got to.
All of that said,
because none of us are wrong. We're always right. Look, see, we told you so.
all of that said, the best that we can hope for are the Nielsen numbers at this point, because we are pre-Nielsen right now, and pre-Nielsen is how they're basing this, where they're saying, well, it's got 24 million views, therefore it's the number one movie in the world. And then, of course, that's going to be promulgated across all of the articles out there. Right. But the real problem is, the real problem with that is, of course, that it leaves all of us in the dark, because we don't have a rubric to figure out. In the olden days, we could figure this out based on the box office. So you could figure out, whether or not people actually wanted to go see a movie, and that, they voted with their wallet. Here, we have no idea what these numbers mean. We don't know if this means they tuned in for 5 minutes. We don't know if it means they tuned in for an hour.
And the history is
there's no cost association.
The history is more insidious than that, because once people started recording with their VHS and their Betamax TV shows to watch later, what Nielsen couldn't measure, they could measure it was on during that showing and that it recorded the whole thing. They couldn't measure whether when you watched it, you fast-forwarded through the commercials, which were the whole point. So now, when something is up there streaming, I mean, I don't know about you, shame on me, but when I see some YouTube channels that I like their content, but every other moment they're plugging NordVPN or somebody like that, and I've seen that commercial before, I just go down there with my mouse and go to the end of it.
We love you, NordVPN. We're not saying anything about it.
No. They're fine people, and I'm sure a wonderful thing. But all I'm saying is, accuracy is not the issue.
Lou, this is not the right time for me to ask you if you'd like to do a joint venture with the channel for a Lou Wasserman's Ghost Coffee brand.
As long as we use a logo that's similar to Maxwell House or something like that.
Lou, let me tell you about this game called Raid Shadow Legends. You're going to love it.
Well, guys, let me show you this. No, that was fun. Well, let me show you this, guys. So here's all I know, okay? I don't have Netflix's data, whatever. I don't have it. I just have this. And what I have is, this is Google Trends, and this is our internet search interest levels, okay? Uh-huh. Now, let me show you. This, the blue is Rebel Moon. The red is the Marvels. The Marvels hit 96% of what Rebel Moon hit at its peak in terms of internet searches.
And that peak was how far ahead or behind the debut?
Well, so the Marvels
that's ahead.
Peaked at November 11th, so basically right on the release date, and then Rebel Moon December 23rd on the release date again. Right?
Yeah.
So right here, 75, it reached up into 100 on the 23rd. So here's the thing. I can tell you the Marvels was not successful. I can tell you that the internet search levels for the Marvels and for Rebel Moon are the same. But this does get tricky, because there were many people searching the Marvels because they were laughing at it, or because they were interested in reading about how anything could be this bad.
This graph shows something else, though, bro. The fall off. If people were looking because, gee, should I go see it or not, giving them the benefit of the doubt, and not that they were just looking for something to laugh at, which you're right, they were.
Right, now you're right. You're looking at the drop-off.
The people who, because of that thing, watched it, actually went. None of the friends they told about it said, "Oh, I'm curious. Let me look it up too."
Oh,
you see what I mean?
In other words,
we're going to check this then. Live, we're checking this. And what we're seeing with Rebel Moon, let's see. If we do 30 days, let's see if it'll... the problem is, okay, so So it's not having the same fall off as the Marvels.
Well, because the stories come out as the number one. Oh God, it's the number one. I better go watch it. Marvel's
But it is falling off.
Never had that.
From the 22nd at 100%, it has dropped off to 39%
Which
in
means
7 days.
each successive wave of interest because of media coverage has been met by rejection,
yeah.
and means that they
You
have
can
told
see
their
that,
friends,
too.
don't bother. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Lou's right, because every point goes up, and every successive point is lower. There's like
And
a little
if people were
bump in
liking
the
it
middle, but
and telling
everything's
people,
going
people
down.
say, "Oh, I got to look that up." But if they say, "Yeah, it wasn't that good," that's the end of the story for them, and they don't bother.
But this is I think the bigger story is that we have the declaration that this is the number one movie in the world. If this were a movie at the box office, we would know definitively if that were true or not. And the thing is, for decades we have seen the commercials that come out and say, such and such is the number one movie in the world according to critics who have a last name that ends with the letter R. Of course, that last part will be in fine print in the commercial. Right? Or they'll take the best snippet in an otherwise utterly awful review. They'll take the one snippet that was positive and plug that in their commercial. But you could still go, if you had any semblance of understanding of the industry, you could still go look at the box office and go, oh, wait, no. This is not popular. Because all of this is hidden behind curtains, this makes it very difficult for anybody other than Netflix to know what's really going on. And if it's on Disney, only Disney, you get the idea. And then we'll get some idea out of Nielsen. But the issue there is that South Park joining the Pandaverse was never shown on Nielsen. So now we're all confused about how streaming works. This is the thing, though, guys. Streaming is going to advertising revenue.
I know.
How are the advertisers supposed to get an idea of what they want to advertise for in the future if they can't figure out what is popular in the culture widely? So think about it this way, and then I want to hand it to both of you. Think about it this way. Let's say that I'm an advertiser, and I'm wanting to put my stuff on Netflix. And let's say that I hear that Rebel Moon is the most popular movie in the world. I might say, well, I want to advertise on that next one coming out in April. The problem there is that all three of us agree this is not the most popular movie in the world, despite what Netflix and what Zack Snyder say. It just, we don't have the absolute proof. How is an advertiser to make any kind of logical, knowledgeable, wise decision in this environment?
Wait. There's logical and there's knowledgeable. Those are two different things, and let me explain what I mean. Let's think of these people making these decisions as individuals, not as corporations.
Right.
They like their job. They like the freebies and the goodies, and they like the prestige of being vice president in charge of advertising for, I don't know, Nelson Peltz's Wendy's or whoever. If they advertise on that show, they've got the ultimate excuse. Well, it was the best movie in the world. Whether it's true or not, the reality becomes the perception. What's the Marshall McLuhan thing? The medium is the message, and the medium is the massage.
I love that.
So these guys, I will never forget dealing with network people in the television industry. And, the reason why they advertised was because somebody told them it was the one. And the reason why they gave green lights to things, we mentioned on the genre guys the other day, we did The Sting, which I commend to you members to go watch because everybody is and they're liking it. And I mentioned
just watch the genre guys in general. That show rules.
But the next movie after The Sting, with George Roy Hill, the director, with Robert Redford, with that era of everything is brown and maroon. Well, we've got to have a hit. It's going to be The Sting. Was a thing called The Great Waldo Pepper. Utter piece of junk. Utter terror. And it was about barnstorming pilots.
Folks. He's being kind with that one.
You can tell.
But nobody got fired for greenlighting it because, hey, we had George Roy Hill and The Sting, and we had a good excuse. So, does it make sense in selling widgets? Maybe not. Does it make sense for maintaining your position and your credibility? Please tell everybody it's the world's best so I can advertise on it, because then I have a decision that is a no-brainer to make because I have no downside for being wrong.
See, I definitely agree with that, Reed. But I also think that this is less of an insidious thing on the advertisers and more on Netflix because, you said it earlier, there's confusion in the ratings nowadays. We don't know what we're looking at.
And more broadly, Spencer, I think it goes beyond Netflix. It's all the streaming platforms. None of them want us to know what's really going on.
And remember,
but that confusion, or go ahead, Lou. Yeah.
No, I was just going to say, Netflix just said, well, we're releasing the numbers on, 1,600 shows.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to be transparent. Well, if you don't release all of them, you're not transparent. You're picking and choosing.
And that's exactly kind of what I was about to get at, which is that confusion it's not a bug. That's the feature, because, to bring this all sort of full circle, what Lou was talking about with the Nielsen ratings, right? Back in the day, as much as, yes, it was a game, they all, sort of invented the metrics and how they would react to it. But at the end of the day, it was still based on that solid, how many of our boxes have tuned into this show? And then as we've gone on in time, and as things have gotten worse for these companies, right? Yes, the consumer has a lot of options nowadays, but these companies are all losing money because they're putting out trash. Over the past few years, you've seen a shift from here's how many viewers checked out our show to here's how many households watched our show or tuned in. Here's how many watch hours we got. All of these what they're doing is they're fudging the metrics to give you something, like you guys were saying, that big #1 movie in the world for them to attach themselves to. And that is what they want. They know that their products are all failing because they have those real numbers. They know nobody watched Ahsoka. They know that Rebel Moon is probably not popping off to the tune of 350 million.
Right.
Or no, that was the
the effect, Spencer, is then it's like you holding up the Stanley Cup. It makes for a great photo, but nobody believes that it has any value in your hands.
You get that great photo, and then it's like what Lou said. You get to take that little thing over to Nelson Peltz's Wendy's and say, look, we were the top movie. Do you want to give us some money? And these guys, the advertisers will go, okay, the numbers you're giving me make sense. Sure, go. But but like you're saying, Pro, it's not clear. They're not measuring anything. Are people tuning out? Did they leave it on in the background? Did somebody fall?
Well, they're measuring it. We don't know what they're measuring. We don't know.
In preparation for this, I did a pretty obvious thing. I went and explored Nielsen's website. I'm going to tell you guys something that's going to blow.
Get out of here.
I'm going to blow your minds. There is a section on their website that says, "What matters to us?" This is their mission statement, right? And there are 6 things, each with its own little illustration in sort of iconic, symbolic, whatever. Would you like to hear? And if you were listing 6 and you were a company, wouldn't you put the biggest one first?
Oh, you would think so, yes.
I would think so.
Okay, Are you ready? #1, diversity, equity, inclusion.
I'm shocked. I can't believe it. I would have thought that it was accuracy.
Wait. Number two, responsibility and sustainability.
I'm sure that Nielsen is saving the planet.
Number 3, after those two, privacy.
Dear Lord.
Number 4, innovation. Number 5, public policy. And guess what? Number 6, the least important after all that.
Please be accuracy. Just put it on the list somewhere. Please be accuracy.
Doing our job.
Oh, it's better than accuracy. Trust.
Oh, no, I don't want to trust you. I just want.
How do you like that list? Does that tell you everything you know about these guys?
It's over. We're done for as a society.
And remember, they're putting that up to appeal to the content makers and the advertisers who are their customers.
Diversity in Nielsen.
Those BlackRock bucks,
baby. Are you going
baby.
to force people to watch shows? That's insane to me.
Give me those BlackRock bucks.
No, but you might shade the numbers towards the ones you think are going to, But and meanwhile, the language, the double speak, they have something, and I shared this in our Slack channel earlier. They have something. How's this for a word? I love language. I love words. They're trying to talk about. Well, one of the complaints about streaming is you could be watching on your phone and on your TV and on your internet, and they have something called deduplicated reach.
Yes.
Deduplicated. They're somehow able, they think, to separate out whether you're, on one or the other. And I mean, I could read you the paragraphs and paragraphs of astounding. It makes Kamala Harris sound like Thomas Sowell.
Well, Lou, there was a time. Lou, you may remember back when the NFL was having the controversy about what to do with the anthem, and around Super Bowl time, a certain aggregator of ratings decided that they were going to bake into the calculations a certain percentage for Super Bowl ratings that would be only based on the assumption that a particular number of people were at sports bars tuning in, and that would be the bump. And that was, I think, back then intended to bolster and protect the ratings for the Super Bowl. I covered that in articles years and years ago. But all of that said, here's where I want to wrap it up. And Spencer, I'm going to give you the final word on all of this. Spencer, the difficulty. So we've talked about the advertising, how that's going to be exceedingly more difficult going forward if nobody knows what's really going on. But it's not just that. It's also those who prognosticate and who analyze and who attempt to be pundits in terms of the culture. When we're trying to figure out what's going on with our culture, that's why we do this channel. That's why we explain entertainment, is because we're essentially attempting to explain what people are very interested in with their free time. And that really matters. How do we do that if we can't figure out heads from tails, up from down, east from west when it comes to these properties that we can't see who's tuning in? All we know is, and by the way, for those of you out there, we showed you the Rotten Tomatoes scores in the background. We showed you Metacritic, but I don't know how long we're going to have any view behind that curtain either. I mean, Rotten Tomatoes is already rotten in my opinion. So I don't know how much longer we'll have anything to measure. Spencer, what do we do in this future?
So in this future, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, Pro. It's going to be rough for analysts and pundits like us, right? They are going to keep fudging numbers. They're going to keep hiding numbers. The metrics will always change so that they can seem favorable. Because again, in Hollywood, in this current state of Hollywood, thy name is hubris, and they will never admit they're wrong. They will never admit that any decision they made was bad, that greenlighting Series A was a bad decision and canceling B was, misguided. Everything has to work for them. And so in doing that, we're going to see, and we are in the middle of seeing, just every time something comes out, a new metric gets dropped, a new thing to say that you're on top. What we're going to have to do as pundits is not only continue what we're doing and remind everybody to cut through that noise, like what you do here, Pro, what Lou does here, what everybody here and on that Park Place, bounding all around our network, is making sure that these messages don't go out unchallenged. Now, it's going to be a little harder because they're going to have the trump card they have in their back pocket now is the ability to go, these guys don't know what they're talking about. They don't have the data. They don't have the real information. And it's going to be true, but we're also going to have to start looking at, we're going to have to start reading between the lines really hard. What does 1.2 million households really mean? You have to question absolutely everything. And honestly, if I may be so bold as to be a little optimistic, I feel like we're going to hit a singularity at some point where once normies realize that once the normies realize what we realize here, that everything is fudged, that nothing is true, that everything changes depending on what goal you're trying to accomplish in this specific second, they'll start tuning out of, this doesn't matter. This doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. And eventually, hopefully, I say hopefully because we know that Hollywood just loves throwing money away anyway. Hopefully that will eventually reach these advertisers and we'll get some pushback to the point where, go back to what we had. Just give us basic viewer numbers. We don't need to know if Junior or Mom was watching or if you were Asian or white watching it. We just give us the numbers. Stop hiding.
I would be a little more optimistic only because of what's already happened. Trust has been eroding because these people have been getting caught fudging. Look at Yelp. Look at the news networks. Look at big brands, whether it's Target or Bud Light or Disney or whoever. People are beginning to realize they've been lying to us. I don't think we can trust them anymore.
I'm reminded of the article that came out a couple of weeks ago, and we mocked it into oblivion, but the number of people who were confused by it, probably not small, but it was an article that came out and it declared that according to Disney, The Little Mermaid, the live-action reboot, was the biggest Disney Plus movie. And then that was the headline. And then at the bottom of the article, the very bottom, it said it was the largest movie on Disney Plus since Hocus Pocus 2, which meant, by the way, that Hocus Pocus 2 beat The Little Mermaid. And so that completely undermined everything the article was about, but not until the very last sentence. And that is the wild, wild west we live in which all of this is obscured. We're all going into streaming. The box office is dying. Movie theaters are being absolutely devastated over the course of 2023 and now 2024. And so if we go full force into streaming, all we can hope for is that the advertisers are going to demand transparency that the public can receive. Otherwise, we're going to have to continue to parse through these headlines that say that Rebel Moon is the #1 movie in the world.
It's
a trophy without an achievement behind it.
The only thing that'll make them demand it is when they spend $1 billion in advertising and they don't sell any more widgets.
You got to sell the widgets.
There's got to be a connection between the sales numbers and the expenditures.
Guys, I think we have.
Why was that line there at the end of the article, Pro? 2 reasons. One, because they expected 90% of the people reading it never to get that far.
Yeah.
Yes,
and
that's
two,
point one.
Because when everybody else said, "Oh, you're full of it," they could say, "Well, we told you that."
That's you're right. They covered their back at the very end.
Pure and simple.
Bingo.
Well, folks, we do better than that here, and we hope that you appreciate it. We've got to wrap up at this point, but folks, on the way out, if you wouldn't mind, click the like button, share, subscribe, and when you click it, you stick it to the algorithms. It's the notification bell. Drop a comment down below and let us know. Are we wrong? Are we utterly wrong? Are we a bunch of buffoons who just don't understand the joy and the splendor of Rebel Moon? Please share with us and let us know what your thoughts might be. Spencer, you're doing a great job over at Bounding into Comics. Looking forward to more content from you. And of course, folks, if you want more commentary from LW Ghost, you can find him on thatparkplace.com, as well as this channel, especially with the genre guys, member exclusive content there. And dare I say, even though it's my channel and I don't want to be braggadocious, the best member content on the web, baby.
Here,
all right, folks.
I'll push you out of the way. I'm not. This isn't my channel. I will confirm that.
He's vouched for it. He's vouched for it.
Wow.
All right, folks. That's better than Nielsen, maybe. I don't know about that. But anyway.
Thank you very much, and I hope we pass the audition.
That's right, folks. Wherever you are and whatever you're doing, keep learning, keep growing, and keep having fun.
No, hey Florl. What you doing? Thinking about Rome?
No, I wasn't. But thanks. Now I lost the game.
Dang it. Now I lost the game. Oh, no. Well, now you're a double loser.
Hey guys, you know what would help you in your grief? Forgetting those things and filling your mind with articles from thatparkplace.com and using that website as a launching pad to get you lost in thought with all of the team from there.
Yeah, that's actually a good idea.
Yeah. Oh, well, Flora, would you look down here?
I hate you.